Sharp Books. So I thought I would do another recent reads because I know I didn't do one too long ago, but honestly I've read quite a few books since then and I'm trying to stay on top of these so I don't have so many to talk about in another one. So I've got about 7 books that I've read recently, and so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about them. First book I'm gonna talk about is Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, and I read this one as an ARC off of NetGalley. This one comes out on October 6th, and I really enjoyed this book. I was super stoked for this book when I saw the cover and kind of heard the synopsis, so I was really excited to be able to read it early. So this book follows our main character April, who is a geologist, but she also loves writing fan fiction and doing kind of like cosplaying for a show that's basically like Game of Thrones, but like not Game of Thrones. And she's always kind of kept that private and never really told anyone about it. And then our hero is Marcus, who is the actor who plays basically like the main guy character on said show. And unbeknownst to really anybody, he's also been secretly writing fan fiction because he's not all too happy with how the show is going. So these two characters at the beginning kind of meet each other because something happens. She decides to kind of somewhat out herself as like who she is as far as like she's been writing this fan fiction. The two of them meet. Both of them are dealing with a lot of things. I think this book did a really good job of covering kind of really heavier subject matter while also kind of having it be lighthearted and funny in other moments. So our main character April is a plus-sized woman, and I love, first of all, that this cover has a plus-sized woman on the cover because a lot of times that does not happen in books in publishing. So I was thrilled with that, and throughout the book she is kind of dealing with that in the sense of like she is proud of who she is and she is not going to be judged or take any crap from somebody for that, and she's kind of like, this is who I am. If you don't accept that, then that's on you, and I don't want to have you in my life. A lot of the things she went through, I'm being kind of vague because I do think it's best to just go in and read it for yourself, but a lot of the things she went through were kind of hard to read, but also like I think they were really important. I personally thought the author did a good job with dealing with that. Obviously everybody has their own opinion on that, and you know, as somebody myself who is plus sized, like I personally thought it was dealt with well by the author, but everyone has their own opinions. Our hero as well is going through a lot because he has this kind of persona as the pretty boy, but there's a lot more going on than that. It's also kind of dealing with what it means to have a learning disability and things like that. There's a lot touched on in this book, but it also had a really fantastic romance that I thought was really well done. I loved it. It was so steamy. I love the two characters together, and overall I would just definitely highly recommend this one. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it, and I give this one 5 out of 5 stars. Second book I read was Engagement and Espionage by Penny Reed. This is the first book in her, I can't remember the name of it, it's like the mystery spin-off series with Cletus and Jen from Beard Science. All I really can say about this book is if you've read Beard Science, which you do need to read first, which is book 3 in the Winston Brothers series, but if you've read that and you are massive Cletus and Jen fans, you need to read this book because it's amazing. So basically it's taking like a romance and a cozy mystery and smashing the two together and making this book, and it was spot on. It was so good. I loved every minute of it. It was so funny. It was so witty. I liked the mystery aspect. It was definitely like mystery light. Don't expect like some crazy crime here. It's not a crime thriller, but I thought it was really well done. It was such a fun time, and I like couldn't not give this 5 stars because I just love Cletus so much, so loved it. The next book I read was A Sweet Mess by J.C. Lee. This is a contemporary romance, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy this book. So our main character Aubrey is a baker, and she owns her own bakery. It's kind of been all she's ever wanted. She has worked very hard for it, and she's kind of finally, you know, her business is growing and it's going pretty well, all things considered. And our hero is a food critic who comes into the bakery, like doesn't know anyone, and has a bad experience that's kind of an accident, and then writes a really kind of scathing review that hurts the business. But unbeknownst to the two of them also met at her friend's bar previous, or like right after, like at the same time basically, and like hit it off. And so they it kind of comes out that he's the same person basically, and it's like their romance. It comes out that like to help her get the place back up and running to where it should be with like money wise, she's a kind of arranged for Aubrey to be on this cooking show. It was a really sweet romance overall. I really enjoyed the two characters. I really liked the friends, like the side characters were really fun. I thought really well done. This book will leave you hungry. I was so hungry throughout this whole book because a lot of the story has to do with food, because she is trying to develop different kinds of baked goods for hers, and then he's a food critic, so they both, the two of them, love food. And there's different kinds of cuisine, like there's Thai food, I think they have Indian food at one point, like there's just, I think there's Italian, like pretty much anything you want they have in this, and it will make you crave some stuff. But I actually really like that. I thought it was really a fun aspect to it. Both of these characters were also Korean, so I did really like that there was diversity in the book, and you got to see both of their families and kind of how they were really different, but they were also really there for them. I especially loved our main character Landon's family. I thought they were wonderful, and my only complaint with this book, why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, was because I'm being vague on a reason. Something happens at the beginning between the two of them romantically, and I personally would have preferred for it to happen later, because I thought there would have been more tension there, and I would have been like flipping the pages faster if said event didn't happen at the very beginning of the book. If you've read it, you probably know what I mean. I did really enjoy it. I just kind of wish that had happened later in the book. So other than that, it was definitely still sweet, and I love this cover. The next book I read was Dr. Strangebeard by Penny Reed. This is book 5 in the Winston Brothers series. I am trying to finish them this year. I've only got 2 left, so I think I'm gonna make it. But this is Roscoe and Simone's story. I can't say too much about this book, to be honest, because it's book 5, and a lot of it kind of, I feel like, might spoil other parts of the series. I do think you probably need to go back and read at least probably all the past books, but at least most of the past books in the Winston Brothers series. But Roscoe is the youngest of the Winstons, and it's about him and Simone, and they were friends growing up. So this is actually kind of like a friends to lovers / second chance in a way. They weren't really together romantically, they were just best friends, but something happens and they have not seen each other in a long time, and now they're in their like mid-20s, I think, and Roscoe is a vet and Simone is working for the FBI, and she is back in Tennessee undercover. No one knows what she's doing there, and she's working at her mother's restaurant, which is called Daisy's Nut House. I mean, I love these books, guys. If you want a good contemporary romance that's funny, hilarious, sweet, and so steamy at the same time, like I think Penny Reed really balances the sweet steam line pretty well. I love this series, and I can't say anything bad about it. So I gave this one, I think I gave it, I can't remember if I gave it 4 or 5, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's probably like a 4.5, we'll go with that. The next book I read was Don't Hex and Drive by Juliet Cross. I read this one as an ARC as well, off of NetGalley, and this one comes out on, I think it's September 6th or 7th. If I remember, I'll put it down below. I love this book. This is book 2 in the, hold on, I wrote it down. This is book 2 in the Stay a Spell series. The first book was Wolf Gone Wild. I read earlier this year and really loved. I love this one even more. So basically the series is following a group of sisters named the Savoy sisters who live in New Orleans, and each of them kind of finding love. This series in general is really a good mix of like paranormal romance meets like small town rom-com because it's got their paranormal things. She's a witch, and our hero in this is a vampire, Devraj, but it's just the whole aspect of it. Even though it's New Orleans, it's a big city, like it's in a small area, and the side characters are quirky and hilarious. So in this book we have Isadora, who is a witch, and I loved her so much. She's very quiet, kind of. So Isadora kind of likes to keep to herself. She loves plants, and she's, I think it's called a conduit, where she can like give magic to another being and help it like live longer or heal it, and that's her power. And so she loves plants, and at the beginning of the book, like the thing that won me over is she gets these pansies, these flowers, and she's like talking to her precious pansies. It was just the sweetest, most like tender-hearted thing, and I loved her from that moment. And then our hero is Devraj, who is a vampire. He's very high up, I guess you'd say, in like the vampire order, and he's in town to help the like vampire leader, Ruben, because all these girls have been taken and they can't figure out like what's going on. So there is a little bit of a mystery thrown in here as well, which I did like. I love this. Defarge is just such a wonderful character. He was so funny. So was Isadora. The two of them together, like, he really wants her much more than she wants him at first. Like, she's very against it because he's got a lot of character going on. He has lived for a long time. He was a Bollywood actor. He's very like high class, and she's like, we don't mesh. And he really like won her over, and I thought it was the sweetest thing. I would highly recommend this if you're looking for a paranormal romance, especially going into the fall. I think it's the perfect thing. The next book I read was Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This one I finished a couple of days ago. This was the pick for the Lovely Ladies book club that I do with Avery and Jen. So we actually just did our live show, and it's on my channel. So if you want to see like my full thoughts on this, there's like an hour-long discussion. So definitely go watch that if you want to know more. But I did really love this book. This one follows Dani and Zaf, and Dani is the middle of the Brown sisters, and she is a professor. She's working on her PhD. Dani is very smart, she's very bold, she's very badass, and she's not going to take crap from anybody, and I love that about her. And then Zaf is a security guard where Dani works, so that's how they meet, and he's also a previous rugby player, and he's like this huge buff guy, but he's also like the sweetest human being. Zaf also runs an organization on the side that helps kids, especially young boys, kind of come to terms with their mental health and that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And like, he's really had to work on that because of a tragedy that happened in his past. And I really enjoyed this book. I will say I did give this one 4 out of 5 instead of 5, which might be a controversial opinion. I did love this. There were just a couple of things that Dani did that just really annoyed me. I think Dani is such a strong female character, and we do need more of those. So in this book, Dani's pretty there might be mild spoilers in this, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers, just when I put the book down, come back. But basically, Dani does not really want a relationship at all, and she's very upfront with that. And Zaf is very upfront with the fact that he does. He's a total romantic. And the two of them both go in kind of thinking they're almost gonna change the other person. Like, they both really want each other, and so they kind of go in thinking like, oh, it'll be okay. Like, Dani's thinking we'll just, you know, have a good time, and Zaf's kind of thinking, oh, she'll fall for me. So they both kind of make that mistake, but it was hard to understand how Dani couldn't see how such a wonderful man Zaf was and how right for her he was. And so I think it just was dragged out a little too long, and like, I personally just had a harder time understanding her character in that way. But it was still a super enjoyable book. I love the two of them together, and once they finally figured it out, like, the ending was the cutest thing, and I love that epilogue. So definitely still love this book and would highly recommend this series. And the last book I want to talk about is Behind the Bars by Brittany C. Cherry. I literally just finished this book today, but I wanted to talk about it while it was fresh in my brain. And Brittany C. Cherry just gets me with the emotions every time. Like, I cried like 4 times in this book. I listened to the audiobook of this one off Audible Escape, and like, I just couldn't help it. This book follows Jasmine, who is a very talented singer, but her mom, her whole life, has been trying to make her into this like pop star, big star, that kind of thing. They keep moving around from place to place to try and make their move in the like showbiz world, and they end up in New Orleans, and they're going to be there for a little bit of time. So she actually gets to go to high school for the first time, which she's very excited about. And there she meets Elliot, or Eli, and he loves jazz music. He plays the saxophone, and he at this time is pretty small, he's pretty skinny, and he's being like ruthlessly picked on and bullied. Not even just picked on, like full out bullied in school for things that have happened in the past, and it's a whole backstory. But it was really heartbreaking to read some of the scenes that these guys were doing to him. But Jasmine and Eli kind of formed this friendship, which was just beautiful to see. I love their friendship, and then that kind of started turning into more, and I loved it. So then there's a time jump. The second half of the book takes place when they're adults. Something happened when they were teenagers that they're kind of torn apart, and they come back, but Eli's a very changed person. He's very closed off, very kind of dark because of what happened, and he is just really lost. And Jasmine is kind of lost herself. She's gone through a lot too. So it's the two of them coming together and really finding themselves again, and oh, it was beautiful. I loved this book. I've loved all of her books, but this one is 5 out of 5 for me. Like, the music, I love that aspect. I love just the New Orleans aspect. I loved this book. While it's a great romance, it was also just such a great book, like on so many different issues and forgiveness and you know, asking for help and things like that, I love the book in general. And then the romance was just on top of that. So highly recommend all of Brittany C. Cherry's books, but this one was beautiful. Oh, and I read this one for the Friends to Lovers Square for the Summer Fling, which is going on right now, the readathon. So I got this recommendation from Chloe from Always Booked, and thank you, Chloe, because I really, really loved it. So got one book checked off for that. Hopefully I can get a couple more. All right, guys, those are all the books that I've read recently. If you've read any of these, let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.